Hello and welcome, it's Adam from betterproposals.io here, and I want to do something a little bit different today. Now, usually I'll be standing in front of a camera talking about tips or tricks or ideas that I've got, but what I want to do today is actually break down a real life proposal that somebody's actually sent to a potential client. Now, over the last couple of weeks I've asked you guys to send your proposals in as well, and if you do, I will do the same and break them down in front of the camera so you can get the benefit from it, but as well everyone else can get the benefit from it too. So the chap we're talking about today is a chap called Tony, runs a painting and decorating firm in Australia, and I know it's a little bit of a deviation from my usual sort of digital service agency kind of world, but I think it's a really good example because it's a full proposal and it's just a really good example and a really good starting point. So first thing I want to kind of illustrate here is the cover. Now, the branding's all on point, all the blues match, all the reds match, domains are all good, everything's all in sync, looks really smart. And I think there's a lot that can be said for making sure that your branding is on point, and Tony's certainly got that down really well. Now, moving on, the next page is a cover letter. Now, first piece of criticism, the cover letter itself is a really good idea. It's a really good way of writing something that's completely personalized to the person you're actually writing the proposal for. The only problem with it is, in this particular instance, it's not actually that personalized at all. It's mainly just where the job is taking place and their name and some other stuff. There's not really an awful lot that's personalized about that actual job and the actual needs of that particular client. The second thing is that it screams the only thing that's being personalized. It looks like everything else is just templated. And obviously the idea is to make it look like that's not the case. So I think I like the idea of it being a letter, but then I think it has its downside as well. So maybe if this was just called an introduction, maybe that would sort of soften the idea that this was the only thing that was actually being edited and tailored towards the client. So that's my thoughts on that. Then we go into an about page, and it works, but I kind of feel like it would be better suited later on. I mean, if you've got to a point where you're putting quotes together of sort of 42 grand, you've probably had a couple of conversations anyway. You've probably been to meet the client. They probably know an awful lot of this stuff, and maybe they came via your website or didn't. And I think it's important information. I mean, these guys have got a load of their guarantees. They've got a lot of awards, things like that. It's really good information. I just think it's just a little bit too early. I would probably be inclined to put it after the price. It's there if they want it, and if not, that's cool too. Okay, so moving on is 4 or 5 pages now that are basically about what they're actually going to do. But it's less about the job and it's more about how they work with the particular paint, which I think is okay. I think the problem with it is, though, is it's all technical stuff. There's almost nothing in here that is sort of, how would you put it, like real language, if that makes any sense, real English. It's all about the makeup of the paint and how durable it is in certain situations and things like that. So it's more technical and it's less benefit. And I think that's something that a lot of people that are probably watching this video who work in a technical aspect, you could probably learn a lot from this. It's not a competition as to who can put the most acronyms in or who can use the biggest words. It's almost a competition of who can use the least acronyms and the least big words. And if you can write it for a 5-year-old, perfect. It's try and keep this stuff so that it's suitable for somebody that's not clued up at all. That said, the only thing I would say is I don't know who this proposal is actually for. This could be for a maintenance manager who knows all of this stuff inside out, back to front, and this is perfectly good information to them. If that's the case, I think it's probably fine. But as general advice, you generally want to steer away from technical. If they understood what it was, they'd probably be doing it themselves anyway. So keep it as sort of plain English as you possibly can, and I think that will really help you out. Quick comment on the photos here. They're really good photos. They're really good, and they're artistic, but they're not too artistic. They're obviously taken in really nice places. I just think, a lot of people could use good photos. I mean, I don't know how old these photos are, but realistically, they could be 15 years old, easily. So take good photos, spend some money on it, and get some good photos taken, because they'll last you ages. And I think it's very much worth investing in that. Okay, so now we just run into the price, sort of almost randomly. There's not really an awful lot of build up or a title or anything like that. Now there's a little bit of a discrepancy here, because you've got the price at $42,000 US, and then you've got this random thing that says special offer, and it's basically an hour's consulting session on choosing the right colors. Great stuff, really cool. The problem with that is you've used the really cheap words special offer, and you've got a massive price in there. I mean, it probably isn't a massive price in Aussie dollars, but keep your language inconsistent and try not to confuse things with, you know, like a massive price and then something cheap with sort of special offer. I think the idea is good. I might be tempted to reword special offer to something more like a time-sensitive incentive, maybe. So, you know, if you go ahead with us in the next 14 days, then you get this extra thing thrown in for free. Other than that, all pretty good on the proposal side of things. There's a couple of main issues with it on sort of from a bird's eye view, and one of them is that there's no obvious next step. There's literally nothing that tells me what to do here. I mean, say I want to go ahead now. I mean, there's no instructions or anything. So that is probably not amazing. I mean, you just want to tell people what to do next. They don't necessarily know. You know what your sales process is, but they don't. And I think if you try and assume that they will, then that's not necessarily a good thing. You don't want to confuse them. You don't want to make them think. You don't want to make them ask. You just want to explain it. If you've already told them what your sales process is, and then they see it in the proposal, at least then it's consistent. So there's that. There is one last thing I want to point out here, which was really, really cool. They've got this checklist, which is amazing. It's a checklist of all of the things that Tony and his company do, and there's blank checkboxes against other painter. It's absolutely brilliant because they've set the rules on what is deemed a good painter or not. So the best case scenario is that somebody else is as good as Tony. And I just think this is so cool because it's just completely reframed the whole selection process in favor of Tony's company, which I think is really, really cool. There was one last point on testimonials here. There's a lot of testimonials in this proposal. There's, I don't know, 16, 17 testimonials, which is amazing. If you've got that many to choose from, brilliant. Do one of two things though. Either put a little case study together for 2 jobs and include the most relevant 2 case studies that you have in each proposal. So if they're doing a lot of outside work, then maybe choose 2 case studies that were for outside work so it's relevant. The other thing is if you are going to use loads of testimonials and you do want to just hammer that social proof home, then take out the bulk of the testimonial and just use the best quotes and just pepper them in throughout the proposal. Overall, it's a really good proposal, and it's not surprising that the guy's been going for as many years as they have, to be honest. They've done a really, really good job. It's a great proposal, and there's really, in the grand scheme of things, not that much wrong with it, and I'm nitpicking for the sake of sort of illustrating some points. So I hope that's helped. If you want to get your proposal reviewed, just send it just like you would to a normal client through to adam@betterproposals.io, and I'll get it in the queue for the next one to be reviewed. So hope that's helped. Take care and see you later.